Abhishek, are you muted? We can't hear you.
Okay, so let's get started. Thank you, Lohit. I, in fact, had started. So thank you once again, everybody, for coming on board for today. This is one of the webinars from the Telerik webinar series. And the session for today is called Azure Mobile Services and Hybrid Mobile Applications. So today, this is who I am. You can find my contact details there, abhishek.kant@telerik.com. Our office phone numbers are also mentioned there in case you have a need to reach out to us. So supporting the presentation or the webinar today, we have Lohit, who's going to be answering your questions. I don't have his picture for this one, but he'll be the one helping answer the questions that you put through. So as we go through the presentation, you may have a few questions in your mind. Feel free to type them into the Q&A panel, which is located in the GoToMeeting pane there. So feel free to put your questions in. This is the agenda for today. We are first going to look quickly at the Azure Mobile Services. So this is not a one-on-one into Azure Mobile, but what we're going to do is we're going to quickly look into what all features are available with Azure Mobile Services. Next, we'll take a deeper look into what Telerik Platform is for building mobile applications. And finally, then we will start actually building a sample to-do application. So what we'll be doing is we'll be using the Azure Mobile Services and its wonderful scalable model that exists in the cloud and use easy-to-use tools from the Telerik mobile platform stack and build the application up. We can do quite a bit of more things than just what a simple mobile services capability provides. So we could go and do offline into the data that is coming back and forth. So for sometimes disconnected scenarios, this is an interesting one. So we'll probably try and take a look at this one. And I guess by this time we would have run out of time. So, you know, you can on yourself explore things like managed deployment of mobile applications or how to embed analytics in your applications as well. So this is the agenda for the day. Let's see how far we get today. So we'll just like to start with talking about the key trends in mobility. Probably you're already aware of them, but obviously BYOD, or bring your own device, is something that is taking the enterprise by storm. The implication for us in the development field is this, that we can't only focus our attention on one mobile platform, so it has to be just every mobile platform that is there, because employees are going to get their own devices and demand the capability on those. And in this regard, hybrid solutions present an excellent choice between, or a balance between, what is available versus what is the effort and what is the monies and times spent on building them. So hybrid applications are a good choice. Next is about social, which is how do you engage with the companies? So in mobility, obviously, if you are just like anybody else, probably Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Skype, or Vibe, Wine. These are probably some of the Viber. These are some of the applications that you're probably using the most. Instagram, just too many of those, and obviously this has led to creation of a lot of content on the web. And this is linked to the third trend that we've put together, which is the cloud, and generating all that content, making sure all that is connected for your mobile experience is possible with the cloud. So of course, on one end, we are going to be building the front end for different platforms, and then on the back end, we are going to have all these capabilities hosted from the cloud. So this is what the talk is about today: building the full end, and then making sure our apps stay with good user experience and are also scalable from the perspective of howsoever many users may come, it should just be simply to support all of them together. If you're not familiar with Telerik, this is who we are, but I'm assuming you're already here, so you already probably know us. But just so that you know the scale of operations that we are in, almost 1.4 million developers are using Telerik products world over. And of course, it is now, we've moved from just being a UX company with RAD controls to being quite a bit of additional products, which essentially reflects in our new tagline, which is develop experiences. So any experience on any site, be it testing, be it mobile development, be it web development, we make sure that you are able to develop experiences for your customers. And these are some of the customers that we have, but I think you're already familiar. An interesting data point is that out of Fortune 500, we did a count and we realized that almost 465 of these Fortune 500 global companies are actually using our products in one form or another. I mentioned we have a great portfolio of products or breadth of portfolio of products. They include dev tools, which is your traditional RAD controls for web forms, MVC, Windows forms, WPF reporting and things like those. We have Dev Cloud, which we are actually going to look at today. This is our offering that helps you build mobile applications, and actually it's just not building of mobile applications but a full stack. So we'll take a look at that today in more detail. ALM reflects our investments in the project management area and testing area. And of course, the idea again here is you should be able to do things quickly and in a much smoother fashion. We have content management system called Sitefinity, which basically integrates all of the best of breed at one location. One slide on where Telerik stack is today. If you are not familiar with Gartner's Magic Quadrant, this may be the first look into that. You will notice on this screen that we have two Magic Quadrants put up here. The first one is called the one for mobile application development, and the second is for integrated quality suites. So we've been, or Telerik has been covered in two Magic Quadrants, which essentially point to the maturity of the solutions. If you notice, we are located here in the Magic Quadrant, which means this is the quadrant for visionaries, which means we've done something significant which has make us stand out of the rest of the crowd. So you can find the rest of the players that you may be familiar with or you may have come across in this Magic Quadrant. Notably, you will see SAP, IBM, Adobe, you will see Salesforce, you have Apple and Microsoft, but they are currently the niche players because the stack that they play in is limited to their own platforms. With Telerik, you can take the capabilities that that these platforms provide and then combine them with the strengths of Telerik to arrive at a solution which is going to help you develop solutions faster. So I have a feedback saying that maybe there is some disturbance. Okay. What I can try and do is see what I can do further for you. All right, on the right hand side you saw the quality suite, and Telerik is also covered here. I'll kind of skip this because there's something that we are not going to cover today. But remember, when we talk about the mobile application development platform, mobile testing is also a piece that we cover. All right, enough about Telerik. Let's look at Azure Mobile Services. Why do you want to use Azure Mobile Services? I think it's clear. You want to provide a backend, you want to store your data in the cloud, you want to authenticate users using various social login systems or enterprise systems like Active Directory, and finally, you know, you want to have the capabilities of the device also exposed to you and you know, abstract away as much of complications as possible. One of those things is push notifications. So Azure Mobile Services do provide you with a single point solution where you can just send a single point of push notification and it is delivered to all the different platforms, Windows Phone, Windows Store, Android apps, tablets, phones, and iOS devices like iPhone and iPad as well. So Azure Mobile, this basically covers the capabilities Azure Mobile Services deliver to you. So on the illustration on the left shows you can develop it in .NET, JavaScript, and the choice of your IDE, and then use the back end that you have from Azure Services. This is slightly more technical look into what all Azure Services provide. I talked about push notifications getting delivered to all the various applications or various platforms. It is done through the notification hubs on Azure Mobile Services. You have user authentication, and then all of these providers are supported, including enterprise ones like Active Directory. And of course, you can store data in the cloud. You have SQL storage, table storage, blob storage, and support for other NoSQL databases like MongoDB as well. Of course, there is a full programming API available. If you're going to do Node.js development, you can actually host it in the mobile services. Or if you're going to do Web API or .NET Web API development, you can host the .NET Web API applications in Azure Mobile Services as well. And of course, all of this is backed by a very robust source control management system. This is probably the back end, but on the left-hand side, you will see how do we expose these capabilities to different platforms. There is a common REST API that's available for exposing all of these capabilities, and then there are managed SDKs, or rather SDKs available both for managed platforms as well as simple things like HTML5 and JavaScript as well. All right, so this probably is a good overview of what we have. Let us move forward, and at this time I actually wanted to show you a quick look into Azure Mobile Services. So I'll just kind of get out and get you the Azure Mobile Services. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out from my VPN. This may probably improve the connection speed a little bit better. All right. Let's open up the Azure Mobile Services. So if you've not seen the Azure Mobile Services before, this is just going to be a very quick tour of the same. So if you notice, so Azure Mobile Services, we were talking about our services that are on the web and that you can consume quickly in your mobile or other applications as well. So what I have here is I'm going to have I have already created an Azure Mobile Services called T Platform, and that's what we are going to use today. I've just clicked on it, and you'll see these are the various things that the capabilities that are provided by Azure Mobile Services. Now, by clicking on the dashboard, you will notice that we have all the information in terms of how much data is coming in, how much data is coming or going out. You will see how many calls, how many active devices, and all of this. So this is one view that you have. The next is about data and storage of data. Here, the general or the default backing store for your data is a SQL database. So what happens is each time you create a new mobile services project, you will also get a default SQL database as well. That is in the data section, and you can see the various rows and columns that I have custom created for us. And this is not a strict schema. In fact, you can completely put in a new schema, and all of it will be stored here as well. So some additional capabilities for data include triggers or server-side code each time there is an operation, insert, update, delete, or all of those things. So you can write some JavaScript code essentially, as you can see here, which is being written for the insert function. But this code is going to run on the server side. You then can look at what all columns you've created. You can add more columns, or you can remove those columns as well. You can also add indexes, and that's what you're seeing. So I've indexed this database or this storage on ID and importance. And finally, there are permissions which allow you to control or authorize people in terms of who has insert permissions, update permissions, delete permissions, and read permissions. For today, we are not going to bother about permissions as much. We're just going to be working with everybody. Anybody with an application key should be able to do things. Now, you're obviously wondering where this application key come from. So let's go back and see. So the moment I created data, you will just let me go back one more step. Each time you create a mobile services project, you will notice at the bottom there are this manage keys thing. So you will see the manage access keys being mentioned here, and you can regenerate it, and then there is a master key which is you use for further admin controls as well. So that's the key that we are going to be using today. And that's when they say anybody who has an application key should be allowed access to the project. There are further API controls that are available. You can write your own custom APIs. Slightly, we're not going to be covering that. You have schedulers which actually can trigger actions at certain times. So you can configure schedulers to run unattended, and they will trigger activities at other times. The push section is meant for setting up your push notifications. You will notice you have a section which is still loading called Notification Hub. So this is where most of the data will be, and this section allows you to actually upload your certificates or other credentials for specific platforms. So for example, you have Windows application credentials, you have Windows Phone notification settings. If you've used the Android or the Google Cloud Messaging, you have an API key that you can get. So different platforms have different requirements. You can actually put all of those here, like you can upload the Apple push notification certificate or Apple certificate here, Windows phone certificate. Though it's not essential, but if you have it, you get higher notification sending limits and things like those. The registration endpoint refers to who can actually come in, or which device can actually come in and register itself with the push notification section. And this is anybody with an application key again. So we're not going to change that. The notification hubs haven't loaded, so I'll kind of, in interest of time, move forward quickly. This is the identity section, and the identity section is the one which enables you to set up authentication with Azure Mobile Services, which means if you want your application users to authenticate themselves using, let's say, Facebook, Twitter, Google, or even Windows Azure or Active Directory for that matter, you can use these settings. I have just set up the Facebook one here with my default, with my key or my API key and the app secret. So you can actually use these things and enable Facebook settings for Azure Mobile as well. Now, finally, we have the configure section. This is also very important in case you're going to be looking at debugging and things like those. So it's going to show you what SQL server your backing store is running on, what's your SQL database called, the source control if you wanted to upload and download things, which is your server-side triggers. You can actually directly download the code and then write and author them and push them back here. The dynamic schema, as I said, it allows you to change the schema on every call. You can actually disable it when you're not going to be needing that. Hybrid connections enable you to connect to in-premise servers as well, but we're not setting anything up there. Cores, obviously, for mobile services is an important thing. Currently, we're not going to configure anything because as we write our application, you'll notice everything is running out of local host. We have developer analytics, some application settings, and some connection strings if you ever wanted to use them. All right, I think this pretty much covers what Azure Mobile Services provide. There are a lot of other Azure services, as you can see, which is indicated by the different icons. But let's actually move on and see how we consume them. So as I do, let me just revisit the section that we are most interested in for today, and that's going to be the data section. So in the data section, you will notice I have created a simple to-do list. and the schema looks like the following. There is an ID, which is the simple GUID. There is a to-do item column, which contains individual items which basically contain the description of the to-do item. When was the item entered? Is it complete already? Is it not? There are two true and two false. There is importance. There's urgent, medium, urgent. So three basically, urgent, medium, and low. We're not going to be using authentication for today, but the user ID would have provided us that feature. There are some additional ones like dirty ID, some that are automatically created, like created at and updated at. So those fields also do exist. All right, so this has given us a quick look into what Azure Mobile Services contain. Let's take another 2 to 3 minutes to look at what does the Telerik platform provide. So first, Telerik platform is a very comprehensive set of capabilities to develop mobile applications. You can start right from design phase. As you can see, there is an app prototyper, and then there is an app designer. You can go into the build, which is the app builder. So we'll mostly be working with app builder today. I mean, there is a full flow that you can go through, but since we have very limited time, we're just going to quickly get started with building the application. You could go ahead and test your application using mobile testing, and then deploy using App Manager. This is just what we call as the managed deployment capabilities, so that is also available in Telerik platform. So you will notice quite a bit of capabilities, and the one that is not mentioned here is an underlying mobile backend as a service that we are going to not use today actually. This is a more, I would say a more architecture kind of view for how you use Telerik mobile platform. On the bottom are platform services like integrations with various business and applications and databases like Salesforce. If you want to connect with a SQL server, if you want to connect with Oracle, those capabilities are provided here. Mobile backend, very similar to Azure Mobile Services. We also provide push notifications, user and social authentication and app security. But for today, we are actually not going to be using this feature at all. Analytics and feedback, so you'll see if you want to capture analytics or usage parameters or usage data for your mobile application, this is the section that you want to look at. Of course, in the tier that you're going to, this is just the back end. In the front end, to build the application, you have the Kendo UI, which is our UI cum application development model, and we also have an IDE called the Telerik App Builder. So we'll take a look at these two most of the time today. We're not going to be doing any amount of testing today or any amount of, well, probably a little bit of source control use, but none of user management and things like those. So you can take this once your app is developed, you can deploy it in a public app store or in your enterprise app store. So this gives you an app that can run on either the web or the hybrid or the native. We are currently going to be focusing on the hybrid piece and develop an application using the hybrid piece. And of course, this is extremely extensible and composable, which means you can choose any piece that you want to use from this section. You don't have to use all of them together. So for example, today, instead of using the mobile backend, we are going to be using Azure Mobile Services here. And I also mentioned that this is extremely extensible, which means if you have your own third-party tools and libraries that you want to bring in, you definitely can bring that in as well. For example, in your mobile application, if you wanted to use AngularJS or Backbone.js, I mean, we allow you to just get everything in. It's not a closed box. It's pretty much an open box, which is extensible and composable. So it is a bunch of Lego blocks and a story built out of Lego blocks, and you can bring your own Lego blocks to the party as well. All right, so since we are going to be using quite a bit of Kendo UI, which is our, as I mentioned, our development model and a bunch of UI widgets. So this is what Kendo UI is in its entirety. It's a bunch of data visualization tools called things like charts, graphs, and things like those. We have a lot of widgets like grids, scheduling or schedulers, navigation, things like those, geo-visualization, and there are a lot of framework components as well. Some of them that we are going to see today. Framework components refer to non-UI pieces of Kendo UI as well, and they are extremely useful, as you will see in a moment. The use of Kendo UI is important because it gives you, extremely powerful build capabilities, and they're optimized for working with various subsystems in Kendo UI. So that actually gives you faster performance. This is our app builder, an interface that you will see more of today, but this is our Windows client that we are going to use. So you can develop, an app builder is available in a lot of flavors. The one that you see here is probably the web interface. Today we are actually going to use quite a bit of Windows client. There is one available in Visual Studio, in the Cloud IDE, which is the web interface, the command line, so you could just actually write code using command line and compile your application into a native or a native hybrid app using the command line, as well as using Sublime Text Editor. So you have a lot of options. Let's quickly get started with developing the app now. And we've already talked about Azure Mobile. This note is only towards the fact that Azure Mobile comes in these three API forms, which is API for JavaScript. So there is a JavaScript function, the REST API, and then there is a native SDK. So we're not going to be touching the native SDK today because this is what you use when you want to develop native applications for Android, iOS, or Windows Phone. The one that we are going to be using the most, or the one that we are going to use today, is called the REST API. All right, enough talk. I think we've gone quite a bit into conversations there. Okay, what we are going to do first is look at an overall view of how the Azure REST API looks like, and then we will come into the Telerik platform as well. All right, so this is the link that gives you a quick look into the Azure Mobile Services REST API. You will notice we have, this is a very simple one, which is the one for doing CRUD operations on database, and that's what we're going to use today. There is also, I mentioned, remember there was a link for, or a key that I had shown you, application key. So that is what is, remember, an extremely crucial piece of accessing Azure Mobile Services at the back end. So the API for Azure Mobile, if you want to consume it in your applications, look like this, which is a simple get verb and a request URI. So you're going to be needing to issue these statements or hit these endpoints, and along with them you're going to have these URI parameters. Some of them may be required, some of them may not be required. One of the headers that is required, and of course apart from the URI parameters you also have the headers that go in. One of the headers that is required every time is called the XZoomo application. This is the one that should have your application key. Anytime you're sending in a header, this is the one that you need to put in, which is XZoomo application, and this provides Azure Mobile Services an application key or trust that it's being asked by or used by a trusted user. Remember the setting that we had in security, which was saying everybody with authentication key? That would start making more sense now. There is response, there is request, and the status codes that are also mentioned here. All right, so this would have given you a quick look into how the APIs look like, and we have APIs for querying data, reading data, writing data, things like those. Authorization, obviously you will see we talked about the XZoomo application with the application key. Authenticated users and scripts and admins can use another level of authentication called XZoomo Auth and XZoomo Master. But we're going to stick with the XZoomo application today. All right, so this is giving you a quick view into how the API is structured. Let's quickly go and look into how do we get started with Telerik Platform. So give me a second as I drag that in. All right, so to get started with Telerik Platform, and I didn't mention that this actually is a free trial available, so you don't have to pay for anything. You can simply go in and say first time, or the URL that you need to hit is telerik.com/platform. So you go here quickly, and once you hit this, there is an option of starting a free trial. So you can continue to use the free trial forever, actually. And what I'm going to do is, it's a very simple way of getting started. There is start now that goes on, and things like those. That will configure all of your applications. So I'm in my Telerik platform right now, and some of the capabilities that I talked about are going to show up very quickly. So this allows for multi-developer application or multi-developer collaboration, and that's what I'm going to do. So as you will notice, there are two workspaces that have been created, and I'm just going to go in very quickly with one of them. All right, there seems to be internet. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch accounts because, as I said, it allows for developer collaboration. Me and Lohit have been collaborating on an application. So I'm just going to go into my own workspace or work area. And you will notice these are my different workspaces. So the one workspace that we are going to use today is called Azure Mobile Integration. So I'm going to go in there. You will notice I will have these boxes. These boxes give you the capabilities that we talked about. The backend services, same analogous to Azure Mobile, but we're not going to be using this today. We are going to be actually using Azure Mobile for our backend needs. There is analytics, there is mobile testing, there is app feedback, and there is app prototyper. So as I mentioned, this is all very composable, so you can just use what you want. So today what we are going to use is something very simple, and that is our app builder hybrid project. Some other kind of projects are also seen here. I've been working on another project that I've just that you could just see. So in here I can start with a quick application, which is going to be Kendo UI application. Kendo UI is just, as I mentioned, our framework for doing basic UI activities. So I'm going to click on Kendo UI blank. I'm going to name this project as probably to-do list Azure demo, and I'm just going to leave the description in here. So all right, this would just log in and create this app builder project for me. So this is how you basically get started with the Azure application, a Telerik Platform hybrid application, and I'm completely running on the cloud. Also note that I do not have any SDKs installed on my machine, which means I do not have an Android SDK. I do not have iOS. It's obviously a Windows machine, so I can't be doing that. I don't even have Windows Phone SDK for that matter. But just by using the web platform or the web interface here, I will be able to author and publish applications which are for any of the platforms that I want it to be. So I can do Google Play, App Store, Windows Phone, and all of them. All right, so since we've not built anything, I think it's too early to publish anything. You will notice what we get is a simple index.html file. You will notice it's already instrumented with the required JavaScript and CSS. And the first thing I always do is I move that to the bottom, the JavaScript files in the body, and you can inspect the other things. So one of it is Kendo, but this also gives you a great option. The platform gives you a great option of managing all the packages. So Kendo UI keeps getting updated from time to time. So currently the package that is there is pretty old, actually, 2014-1624. But since we always are releasing something new, I'm going to choose a new package, which is 923, which is the latest one, 923, and close this. What basically this does is it updates all my Kendo UI libraries from this folder. There are also additional, we have a plugins marketplace and a full Bower ecosystem integration here as well. If you are coming from a .NET background, Bower is something similar to an NPM in Visual Studio. So Bower gives you access to numerous JavaScript libraries that have been onboarded into the Bower ecosystem. All right, so let's just close this. And you will notice all of our Kendo is now updated to the latest version of Kendo Mobile, which is called very quickly the version, which is the latest one, which is 214.2.923. That's what we had upgraded it, so don't have to look in deeper in there. All right, so the other thing that I want to do is, because I want people to be collaborating on this, I'm going to be actually setting up my version control. So I'm going to be configuring my remote repository. So I have a GitHub account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to my GitHub account. Let's hope I can remember my credentials well. All right. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to, whatever code I develop here, I'm going to be throwing that into my GitHub account so that you can actually access that at a later time. So I'm just going to call this once again the to-do list Azure demo. So this should create a new repo for me in GitHub. And I guess it is successful. So you can see we've got a new one called to-do list Azure demo, which is a public repo. So I'm now going to connect to it. I think this is a user, currently only one, which we are going to have. Okay, yep. So what it's going to do is it's going to commit all the changes. And in here, I'm going to call this the initial commit. Kendo framework included. All right, and I'm going to do a commit and a push. There's a quick question on why use GitHub, and that's because we want to be collaborating on this project with other people and make this project available slightly more widely. So if you do not want to use GitHub, I mean, you can use other Git sources as well. Whatever is available on public sites. So feel free to do that as well if you would like to. All right, so this is just the first thing that we have done. What I want to do now very quickly is do something different, which is now I'm assuming some of you are from the Visual Studio background. So let's switch to actually Visual Studio and work on the same project in Visual Studio. So I mentioned that Telerik Platform gives you choices. Let's exercise that choice now. So this is Visual Studio 2012, slightly older. You get, once you install the App Builder, plugin, you will get this additional menu here called the App Builder plugin. The first thing you will need to do is to log in with the same credentials that I logged in to my platform account. It will go actually and authenticate this at the website level. So give it a second. I'm not sure. It's taking a time. In the meantime, if I have any questions, let me take a look. I think most of them have already been answered by Lohit, but let us see. Can we deploy an application built for iOS Store to Windows and Google at the same time? Well, I think, Nitin, the right question would be, can I use the same code to onboard applications for iOS, Windows, and Google? Yes, you can. But remember, the binaries are always going to be different. A Windows phone binary is a ZAP file. An iOS app looks like an IPA file, and the Google ones look like an APK. So you can get all the three binaries from the same code, and that's what probably we are trying to do today. All right, so we've logged in, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. If you Yep, at the bottom of the screen you can see I have completed my login to the Telerik platform. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to go into our Team Explorer and actually try and get our repo working. Just one second. All right, so let me get my URL first. Okay, so we had published it to the GitHub, so this is the URL I need. All right, I'm going to get this. So in Visual Studio now, let us see what I can do here. Well, I think this is already configured for a project. So I think I will need to go to the
Can you go to the settings there in the Team
Nah,
Explorer?
this one, this is just this. This is global settings. It's going to, no, this is not the one. There is a team TFS attached. I'm just trying to see where that goes. Okay. All right. This is always confusing.
It will be in the team. It will be in the team menu.
Let me see. Connect to TFS.
No,
Okay. Yep, so I think this is the one. You can see the local Git repositories. I can go and clone a new one. So I can say I would just need to copy my demo or the Git repository details here, and I'm going to change the location here to probably to probably something on the web, which is maybe to-do list Azure. Yep, this looks good. All right, and the project name or the folder name that I'm going to create is called demo, and I'm going to clone this right here. So what this will do is it will initiate a clone and it will download all the artifacts that we had there that we have uploaded. So essentially there was not much available at that time, but now that we have cloned it, it should also be visible in our Solution Explorer once we go and open our project. So notice what we are just doing. We've started from a web interface and now we are jumping into Visual Studio to actually access our application. So it is created, if you notice, in the demo folder there is to-do list Azure demo, and the project that we need to select is .ab project, and let's open that project now. And it will have all the files that we created using the Telerik Platform web interface. All right, so let it open quickly. Okay, I think you can see what is here. Great, makes sense. All right. You will notice exactly the same things come in here as well. Now, let's start writing some code, and let's see what we want to do first. So let the index.html open up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly add two folders to organize my code better. So the first folder, I'm going to write in all my views. So all the views are going to be written in here, and I'm going to have all my scripts in the scripts folder. So I mentioned JavaScript or hybrid application development. This means I'm going to use HTML for visualize or for getting the structure of the data, and scripts for doing all the functionality. So that is what I'm going to work on today. All right. So the first thing, obviously, that I want to do in the index.html is to okay, move this. Oh, I didn't probably check that code in earlier. Okay. So I'll go in here. I want to do a few things. So I'm just going to write some pseudocode here, which is the first one would be to show the list of to-do items. All right. And the second thing that I want to do is maybe add a new to-do. All right, so this is just the pseudocode that I want to write. Now, the way to start writing this code is very, very simple as well, which is you simply define a div tag and mark the data dash role as a view. So this tells Kendo, which is the platform that is responsible for rendering the UI and things like those, that you want this view to be something that you want to render, and all the elements within this view will be rendered with Kendo capabilities applied to them. You will notice we'll write very simple HTML elements, but when we start looking at them, they start looking very different. Now, before I can do anything else, I need to tell Kendo that, hey, you know what? You need to take all of this and then convert it into a Kendo view. So while I've just defined it to be the view, so this is the declaration, there needs to be some amount of gluing together of declaration with the capabilities which are available in the Kendo mobile framework. If you notice, we also have a jQuery framework here, and this jQuery framework is required. It's just a dependency that we have, and the only dependency that we have on any of these on any of these other frameworks. So the only dependency, as I mentioned, is going to be on jQuery. All right, so the first thing we want to do quickly is to add the script, which is add a new item, and then we are going to glue together the capabilities of Kendo and bring it to the whole mobile application. So I'm going to add a new JavaScript file here, and sorry, I don't know why it's jumping all around, and call it app.js. So we will get a new file called app.js. Now, in the app.js, what I want to do is I want to glue things together. So I have some prepared code. You will notice it's going to be extremely simple, but all I'm really doing is I have a self-invoked function here, and in the self-invoked function, I am simply using the device ready function, and the key task that I'm doing here is actually app.application, and I'm just saying that instantiate a new mobile or a Kendo mobile application on the document.body. So if you notice here, we had the body. So we said on document.body, and that we have layout which we will apply, which is tab strip layout, which will just create, and then the initial view should be set up to something. So for now, we can just remove this initial view and leave it there. So we're going to tell Kendo UI that this is what you want to do. I have also gone ahead and declared some global variables or global constants. There's no concept of a constant in JavaScript, but let's assume there are global constants that we are going to use. And you will notice there is app.todo URL, which is the same URL we saw in the REST API of the Azure Mobile Services. So, and this is the Azure application key, which I had shown you earlier as well. So this is the data that we are going to work against, the to-do list table. You saw some of those already being pre-filled, and this is the application key. Now, by just doing this much, what you've just told the index.html file here is that, you know, show this as a view. So I'm just going to say the first view is going to be the simplest. We're just going to call it Hello World. Now, just with this much, I think we should be set up to show you the first application view. It's very simple, but then I think this is what we need to get started. Okay, all right, solution file. But the solution file is something that we may not need for the rest of the things. So what I'm going to do is, all right. I'll go to ignore this later at this time. All right, let's go ahead and view this in a simulator. So in the app builder, you can menu, you can actually go and say run to-do list Azure demo in simulator. You can also use native simulators and things like those, but for now I'm just going to say use a simulator, and it's just going to quickly come up. All right, so I am just I'm just waiting for this demo to quickly come up. 1 second. The simulator, it should just be, as you can notice at the bottom of the screen, it says launching simulator. So a simulator should be just coming up in no time. Okay. All right. All right, so this is our simulator. If you notice, you've got iPhone, Android, and everything else. You've got versions. You can flip, refresh, take a screenshot, debug, which we're going to be using quite a bit. So I've just clicked on the debug. Did I? Okay. And on the right, you will see additional settings like add or so you can add basically or simulate addition of contacts. There is file storage, geolocation, and most importantly, network connection simulation available here as well. All right. So I guess this did not show up anything. So I must have done something weird. Just 1 second. Oh, yep. We have still to define our layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go in and copy the layout, which should give us the basic view of the screen here. So I'm just going to go in here and copy the code in. It's very simple. The layout has so layout is the way your file is going to be shown, or your view is going to be shown. So you can see there is a header section in the layout. The way I'm defining the layout is calling it the data dash role. The same way we had defined data dash role view, we have data dash role as layout. This is an ID for it, which we are going to be referring. Remember, we referred this in app.js. We said the layout should be the default layout for all the views is going to be tab strip layout. This is what it is, tab strip layout. There is header section, and in the header section, we have data role header. We have the nav bar on the top, and then these 2-3 different pieces. They may not be existing right now, but we'll quickly get to be adding them. Now, in the footer section, we have additional links that you can see as tab strip, so they're all here. All right, let's save it, and don't have to do much. Just go back into the simulator, and let's see if this shows up. Okay. What seems to be the issue? Let's reload it and see what happens. All right, something missing still. I'm trying to see what can be missing here. 1 second.
Can you go to the app.js?
Oh yeah. Well, this should actually be working. Not sure what's going on. Anyway, I'm just going to. This should just be coming up. Data dash. I'm just going to add a title to say intro, and this is going to be rendered in this span here, which is view title. And I'm thinking, what could be the problem? All right, demo gods, not happy today. What I'm going to do is, in case since this is not working, I'm going to quickly go and switch to a working code that we have. Give me a second. Oh, okay. One second.
Can you check the script references once?
The one that I always forget. Okay, that's right.
Adding the app.js, yeah.
All right, so I always forget that. Sorry about that. So all we are going to be needing to do is reference the new file that we have added here. So app.js needs to be included. So scripts/app.js. This should do it. Sorry, and thank you so much, Lloyd, once again. All right, so let's see if this helps. Still missing.
Yeah, it's. I think it's not able to find the Kendo.
Let me see, Kendo. We're just verifying. Yeah, it's all there.
jQuery, then the style sheet.
Yep, that's all here.
Kendo styles. Yeah, everything seems good, but if you look at the network, it's saying it can't find somebody there.
No, I think that's just sorry. Sorry for the crosstalk. It's just I think just the map file. This is not required. Okay, so you see all the Cordova plugins add up. Load on. I think it's just us who are missing for some reason. All right. Okay, there is some. Okay. So here, our first use of the debugger. The console window has an error that says cannot read property save of view for offline of undefined. So we've added some things which currently do not exist, and it has a problem with that. So if you go back here, you will notice it says save view for offline cannot be read. So I am actually going to remove these things. So new offline capability going to be removed, and these views, but I don't know if it have a problem with the views as well. So I'm just going to, okay, there we go. Our first view with a little difficulty is up. And you can see the simple intro that we have added and hello world that we did add here as well. The thing that I also want to show you is if it was a simple change like hello world again, and you switch this, it will automatically, keep doing those changes. Every time you make a change, actually this is going to be updated without you having to do anything else. You've seen the console window, but there is a full source window as well, which would help you debug your code. So I can open up my app.js file here and set up breakpoints also here. So as you can see, this is all here. So part of the Chromium project that's been integrated within the simulator as well. Let's go ahead and actually do some work. So to do the work and to structure the code better, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create a new HTML file, and probably I'm going to call this show all to-dos. Okay, so what this will allow me to do is show all to-dos in here. So, well, this is right now in HTML, but what we want to get it to is just this particular view. So this view is going to be a good template for the same. So give me a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this and simply start typing div data-role equal to view, and I'm going to title this as maybe all to-dos. So this is where we're going to get all our to-dos that have been captured. And now in Kendo UI, what you do is you can simply create a scrolling list with declaration of capability as data-role, and the capability that you need is called list view. You may also want to give it an ID. So I'm going to say all to-do items list view. So this is just the API that I'm using for the list for the items here. So very simply, I can actually add add or start to display items like hello and add another item. I'm just trying to kind of get to a point, but I'll show you how to get that point very quickly. So I'm just going to call this hello world. I'm going to save this. And if you just took a look at this view, which is show all to-dos, this will actually have this view come up. But how do I show it? Probably the name of the file. I have to go here in the bottom. If you see, there are two. One is pending and all. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and call this or change this name to all to-dos.html. So if I click on this file, once I have gone live, I should get to that link. So I'm here. This is my URL. If I click on all, we should browse to that navigate function. We should navigate to that view and should have our list view. So here, so simple static list view, which is hello world. But what we want to do here is actually to show you the items coming from our mobile services. So 1, 2, 3, 4, we want these 4 items in showing in this view here. So we've understood the basic structure. Now let's go and add the functionality quickly to get that working. Now I would add that into another script. So I'm just going to add a script because the script will be responsible for going and fetching all the data. So I'm going to call this show all to-dos.js, and before I forget, I will go into my index file. I will add that script here as well. So that's one thing that you got to do. But if you're going to be using require.js, there is some respite of having to do all this in the index file as well. So show all to-dos.js. Hopefully this should work. In back into, we don't need app.js too much. So now we are into what we want to do is to go and access the file or the data from the, instead of typing this out, let me do something else. Let me get this. I'm just going to copy the format of a self-invoking function. So that's all I'm doing. Okay, so this is basically the simplest of the structures. Now the first thing that you probably want to do is to author a model of of the file. So what I have here is I can simply do this, and let us look at the structure of the file or the data that is living here. So ID, to-do item, to-do entered, and all we need to do is start authoring the data about that here. So I can go in here. In the model, I'm just going to say my ID should be the ID field, which is what it is, and the rest of the fields for this should be put up here. Now I have the code already prepared for the same. So what I'm going to do is probably quickly paste that thing in. So let me see. Okay, all right. I think this should be good enough, but the braces are always a problem. There we go. And that's where we need to thank Visual Studio for highlighting this for us. And there is one more missing, as it says. So, okay, importance. Oh, it's just for this. Okay, so we'll pull one in, and that will close the fields one. So, all right, so great. We are using capabilities of Visual Studio to author our code quickly as well. All right, this is first we have defined the model. The model looks long, but really it is nothing but the field name, which is to-do item. And if I overlay that with what we have here, let me just overlay this quickly. You will notice that we have a very simple view, which is ID, which we have specified as ID. The fields are to-do item, the column names to-do entered, and to-do entered is of type string, but of a new date, is complete, which is going to be a Boolean value. So I've said Boolean, and default value set to false, so on and so forth. And now we need to bring in a very powerful construct from Telerik Kendo UI, which is called the data source. So we will be now defining the data source. Now to define the data source is very simple. I am just going to call this Azure to-do, maybe data source, and just simply declare it by calling it kendo.data.data source. Okay, this should do it, and that and that. Okay, now, well, what all do we need to actually start writing this? The first thing that we would need to define is the transport. So the transport contains all the things. How do we communicate with the service at the back? So the one thing that we want to do is to author a read from the URL at the other end. Now, what is the URL that I want to use? This is something that we had declared in our app.js. As I said, there are some global constants that we're declaring. So this is the global constant that we are going to use. Copy it here. What is the next thing we want? We talked about using the headers, and the headers should contain our header information that we saw. So if I am here, I'll open up another one. There should be one bigger one. Okay. And in here you saw the request header that needs to be copied is called xzumo application. So the header is going to be called, is going to have this value, and the value of this is going to be again picked up from the Azure key constant that we have. All right. This looks pretty much, wow. Okay, this looks okay to me. Maybe to make sure that we have data coming down correctly, we can just specify data type as a JSON as well. All right, so this is fine. I think we're all set. What we have done till about now is authored the data source and authored the view model. But then if you notice, we haven't associated the view model with the data source as well. And it is extremely simple to do that. All I need to do is probably go here and say that the schema for this data source is defined, and the schema has a model, and the name of the model is to-do model. So I can just say model to-do model and schema and transport defined there as well. Okay, I think we are good. The one final step that we need to do, since this is a self-invoking function, we are working with, we need to make sure that this is exposed externally. So I'm going to expose this as Azure data service, and I'm going to actually call the data source, or I'm going to actually save this data source or make this available with the same name, and this will expose the data for the data source. Now, after having done this much, what we have done is we have wired up our code to go and read the data, but we still haven't done displaying the data. So the display of the data is probably done here, but now we don't want these static values, right? So we can remove them and take help of our friendly, simple Kendo syntax to actually specify the data source. So the way or the location of the data source is this namespace, which is this, and the value is going to be Azure to-do DS. So it's going to be this much dot Azure to-do DS. Now, what this has done is it has allowed us to get all the data and start showing them here. Now, if I just ran this code, let us see what happens, and we'll see this code in a second. Okay, so the moment I switch back, you will see there is some loading going on. So this is the time when the application is going online, trying to fetch the data, and let's see what goes on. So let's check the console. There's nothing. Okay, the data is here. So as you notice, it is all objects. So it does not know about all the JSON that it has received. how to display the same. In the network tab, this is also going to be very useful for your debugging. You can notice that the last call is a GET call, and it is successful, which is 200. So actually, we did receive all the data, and the format of each of these is like this. And now we need to author some way of displaying this data. And the way we are going to be displaying this is going to be called a template. Now, a template is nothing but a very simple representation of the data. So the way we can display a template is just by declaring a script of type anything which is non-standard. I have just used text.x kendo template and give it an ID, which is to-dos template. Now this ID is going to be used again at the top. I'm just going to come back and author it again. But what we basically need to specify to the list view is this is my template that I want to use, which is to-dos template right there. So it is to-dos template. And in here, what I want to do is show the item. So let's see what came back. To-do item. I definitely want to show the to-do item. So the way to show the to-do item is to go in here, and the syntax is slightly specific. So you need to go here and say to-do item hash again. Now what this will instruct Kendo to do when it is binding the template to this list view is to show to-do item, whatever the variable or the column name was in the JSON, or the field name was there in JSON, to show that value in the view here. Okay, so let's go back and save this. It's saved. Let's go back here. It's loading it up again. It's performed the get function, and now it should be coming up at any time, unless there is an error. Oh, to-do item is not defined. Well, okay. Let's see what our code is. Did I author something incorrectly? Looks fine. Aha. I think the perils of capitalizations. Okay. All right. As you can see, all right, you have all the data that you wanted to get from the backend right here. There is similarly you can do. I'll take a time check, and it's already about 4:20. So I will stop here in terms of constructing the code. But what I would want to tell you is the way we have added read here. Similarly, you can add your create, update, and delete, and continue to work with this again. Now, before we end, I would just like to probably show you one or two simple things that would basically amaze you. The first is to actually make this data offline. Now, to make the data offline is required when you have sometimes disconnected scenarios. So the way you make the data offline is do nothing except specify this, which is offline storage and a key with it, which is to-do items offline. So this key can be any string. All I'm doing is I'm saying offline storage, which is the value. Now, by instructing this, you've enabled the data source to actually work with the offline storage. Now, how do you make sure, or how do you tell data source that now the data is offline or it is online? Now, the way to do that would be to have a switch, which is going to be, switching the offline or online functionalities. So what I'm going to do is, remember there was a simple thing that we had removed because it said that it does not exist. So I'm going to go back into my index.html and probably have a visualization here for making this offline or taking this offline. So data-role equal to button. Now you may be wondering, why do we need to take this offline? Well, you can also trap going online and offline by the various Cordova events that get fired. but since we're just simply working with with uh, with this, we can going to go just and actually manually simulate this. What I'm simply doing is I'm saying data role. I'm just creating a button, and the button will have a functionality which it is going to work with, which is downloads. And this is where the magic happens, which is when I click this, something should happen. And well, that is it. So I can just say go offline. I would need to author really one service which can take, or which can be clicked, and then we can work with that service. So I have a service already created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a function for taking data offline, right? And the function is called save view for offline. All we are doing it is if the sender is offline, or the text of the sender is offline, we can take it online. And if this is going to be something else, then we are going to make it offline. So that is it. And the key switch that happens is going to be this one, which is we are going to take the data source and make its online value to false, and in this case make its online value to true. Now, since we have defined our data service slightly differently, I may need to modify this one here and this one here. Okay, so save view for offline. So I'm just going to copy this. So when anything gets clicked, I want you to get here and call the function by the name save view for offline. All right, so save view for offline. I think this should do the magic that we have been hoping. So let's see what happens. Maybe one additional thing for aligning this text to maybe right. Left. Okay, let's use the left. Let's save all and let's see what this gives us. So okay, back up here, as you can see. All right, so we have data, and we're working with the data right now, pending. So so pending is not wired. So let me actually then do something else to demonstrate this. I'm just going to call, instead of pending, I'm going to call this home for now. And the view that we had used, I'm going to use data-id, and I'm going to call this the intro. So what I want to do is when I click on home, I want to get to that view really directly. Okay, let's save this, go back here. View pending to-dos not found. Where is it that we are referencing it? Okay, this was fine. Okay, this is what we have added now. And app.js should just be fine, so we can close that. Show all to-dos. All right, this should just be fine. I don't know what that reference is. That's okay. This is not even exposed. Great help there. So to expose this, I need to use this here. Say that here. And intro data-id. Oh. Well, this is pretty much it. Let's see what happens. I'm going to reload this. And to debug, well, here we go. Hello world again and again. And when you go to this, it's actually going to go and get some data. If you go back here, I think it should just come up, but data-IT, or should I just call it IT actually? Not sure. Let's see if this helps. Back here, back here. Okay, that was just a little mistake. Okay, so now when you're going to go back into this, it's going to go and fetch the data again. So if you want to avoid that, and let's say we've got offline, so when we go here, we press on this button, which is going offline. This will convert it to, oh, it says cannot. So we've obviously copied the code without thinking what we should be changing. So app.azure data service, and our data source is slightly also called differently in this case. So here and here. Okay. All right. So we have this, and once we click on offline, this data has gone offline now. Remember the key that we have given? That would be visible in our resources section. In the local storage, all the data that you thought was downloaded is now saved here. Now what this will allow us to do, since the data has gone offline, what we can simply do is switch between the two, and you can see this is going to be absolutely seamless. What I can also try and do is in the simulator change the network connection to none and continue. If you notice, this will continue to work. Now it's just not only this much. If you went on and created a new item for this list, that item would also be taken offline. So let me demonstrate these things for you. But now that we have also run out of time, what I would suggest is let me just first quickly save everything so that this is available to you even after we have done the work. So let me go home. Let's try and see what are, I always get confused by this interface. It's so tiny. Not the settings, the changes. What are the unsynced commits? And in here, get me all the changes. Okay. All right. So these are all the changes that have happened. I'm going to add a comment saying, what is it? Okay, so excluded changes. I do not want to send, okay, let me just make those changes any which way. What is it? To do items, red. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say commit and push, so it will go ahead and push it to the data source. Now, since we've seen how all this works, let me actually get you a slightly working code from another sample application that we have, which exactly does the same thing. But I'll show you what all is possible in that application as well. So I'm going to start, and this is our Windows client. This is nothing to do with Visual Studio now, but you will notice our simulator looks very, very similar. Let's take a look at some of the capabilities that you can actually hold or set to provide. Okay, as you saw, as you thought, as we set the network connection to none, let's go and create a new Wi-Fi or connect it to the Wi-Fi. Let's reload it in a second, and you will notice, okay, so this is showing you all the data. Notice some of the capabilities here. The ones that are highlighted or are in bold, they're the ones that have been marked as urgent. So if I go and quickly show you which are the items that have been marked as urgent. So the urgent items are Learn Azure Mobile Services and is offline working. So these are the two ones that are extremely important, and they've been marked in. So this is like selective formatting. Now if I go to this link, which is my pending items, I can go here and say offline in car. So these are the ones, these basically demonstrate to you the querying capabilities, and you will notice in the pending to-dos, again, there is urgent, but these are the items that have not finished at all. So once again, if you notice, these are two items, is complete, which is true and false, which is these are the two that have not finished actually. So these are the two that have been shown here in the pending item. So this shows you selective querying. We've written a query to say is complete separately. So if is complete is false, only then show it in this pending view. Now, how about adding a new item? Now, remember I mentioned, let's add a new item. So it's a very simple view again. We are going to say adding during demo and call it a medium and click on save. So you'll get this little thing which is success, and there are some debug messages that we are also sending into the console. So let's check if this is actually come into Azure Mobile Backend. Let's see what this is. Okay, so you can see we've adding during demo. This row is also here. It's not complete yet, and it's of a medium importance, the same settings that we had put through. So if we go back into pending, you will notice that the only two older ones are there. We have a feature in Kendo list view saying pull to refresh, and the moment I do a pull to refresh, it will go and fetch the fresh data. Now in the fresh data, you will see it's adding during demo. How about we go offline now? Okay, so I've gone offline now. Let's see what is there in all and pending. But how about I want to add something new? So what I want to do here is adding in offline view. Hey, you may think I'm bluffing, so why don't we change the network connection to none, adding in offline view, urgent, and let's save it. You will notice we've received a success. Though there is no connection, it's still successful. So I've added it. But now if you notice at the back end, this is not added yet because there is no connection available till about now, which is adding in offline view. You don't see that. Now, however, when I click on go online, which is this button, I just click that and it says failure. I think it should just go out. But let's check again. There may be an error which is incorrect. Let's see if this has been added here as well, which is adding an offline view. So yeah, there was some failure. Oh, because we still have no connection here. So how about we enable the connection and try it, try to see if, okay, so there is no way. What we can do is, this allows you to inspect, but since, sorry, we didn't do that, let's try to save this again and again go online. Now with this approach, our data should have reached the mobile services at least once, if not twice. Let's see what happens. So okay, we've kind of persisted what was problematic and then brought that up here as well. All right, great. This is something that I wanted to show you. Well, there is one final thing. So we've added all these offline capabilities, but I want to make this offline capability also seen as completed. So we have completed this. So what we want to do is we want to actually take this out and mark this as is completed. So I can simply do a swipe. So the moment I do a swipe, this is actually changed from pending to completed. So let me go here in the pending items and do the swipe. So since this is just the screen, I mean, you may not see it as much, but watch the cursor closely. I'm doing the swipe, and you notice one thing just disappeared from here, adding an offline view, which means it is no more a pending item. If we go back here and refresh this, you will notice adding in offline view. There are two of them, and one of them is being marked as complete while the other way continues. So how about I say offline in car and mark that as complete as well. So I've just swiped it, and if I go online at the back end, you will notice offline in car is also turned to true. All right, so these are some of the things that you can do, and there is much more. But given that we have run out of time, I will just end the presentation. We've, I think, horribly run out of time today. But one of the final slides that I have is about deployment. So you've seen today everything being done in a SaaS model where everything was on the web. But then you also have the option of deploying things in the public cloud, which was what was seen, but alternative in if you want it to go in private cloud or on-premise as well. So this is what Telerik supports. If you have customers or people who want to maintain confidentiality of the data, Azure data is obviously stored on the cloud and accessible to governments of different countries apart from ours and others. So if you do want an on-premise solution in terms of confidentiality, maintaining your code also within your premises and things like those, Telerik can provide you with an on-premise solution as well. So with that, I'd just like to end and check if there are any more questions pending for me. But for all practical purposes, this is what we wanted to cover today. And hopefully this was useful. I know probably it was slightly longer than what you were expecting. So apologies. And I'm going to stop the recording now and